Welcome to our next episode of Sassy AF TV. On this episode, we're interviewing Coach Christina, a love, dating, and relationship coach who's here to talk to us all about the best ways to have an awesome, badass relationship. Unfortunately, we had some technical difficulties, and the sound quality, well, it might not be the best. But who cares? We don't worry about being perfect. We'd rather show up and give you what you want. Thanks for watching. Enjoy this episode. All right, welcome back to another episode of Sassy AF TV. I am so excited to have you all here today. Don't forget, if you're watching this on YouTube, make sure that you're subscribing and hit that bell so you get the notifications. Anywhere else you're watching this, make sure that you are subscribed at Sassy Healthy Fit so that you get all of our updates, everything going on with Sassy Healthy Fit. And I'm really excited to have with me Christina Roberson, Coach Christina. She is here with us today to talk about one of my favorite topics, love and relationships. I know that we all want to spread more love in this world and improve the quality of our relationships. And sometimes it's so freaking hard. Am I right? I don't know. Christina and I were talking about this the other day, and I think I'm somehow the default, de facto relationship expert of my friends. And I get a lot of questions that come up about how do you deal with this with your relationship? And even though I've been married for, it seems like a million years, relationships are hard and you have to work on them every damn day. And it's part of the journey, it's part of the fun. But I'm really excited to have you here today, Christina, to learn from you, all of your expertise. And you have such a heart-centered approach to how we deal with communication and dating and all these things that we want happy love life. So thank you so much for being here. I'm really excited to have you on the show.
And thank you so much for having me.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. All right. Well, I always like to start with an icebreaker question. So my icebreaker question is, which I did not give Christina any prompts on this, is what is your favorite song to dance to right now?
My favorite song to dance to, it'd probably be more of like a mood dance, but it would definitely be Symphony. I don't know if you know one.
Oh, yes. Yes.
That is my jam right now.
That is a good one.
Yeah. And what about you?
Oh, now you're throwing it back on me. You know, last night I was busting it out to Greatest Showman. I'm not going to lie. I'm still feeling the vibes of Greatest Showman. So it's good. All of it. It's just got me. I was literally having a solo dance party in my kitchen while my kids were like putting their pajamas on. It was pretty fun.
Awesome. My girls join right in, and we do dance parties every week. So
it's super fun. Nothing wrong with a dance party for sure.
True.
Awesome. Well, I want to hear, so I want you to tell everybody about yourself and really, how did you go from being a cosmetologist to getting into the business of relationships?
Well, I have been a cosmetologist since the year 2000, and I have had about 200 clients after the first about 2-3 years. So I've built up my clientele really well. And what I realized after all these years of making women beautiful on the outside is that my true calling was helping them see their beauty internally. And after many, many times of me being the shoulder to cry on and also me being the support for these women, it led me to realize that my passion was their story. That's what I looked forward to. That's what made it all worth it for me, was having them sit in my chair and tell me their life story, tell me their goals, tell me what they were struggling with in their relationships. And I became their go-to person. And after a while of that, I was like, okay, this is my passion. And one of my clients actually became a coach, and she was the one that inspired me to help more people, outside of just that little arena of the hair industry.
That's awesome. That's also, what did you do at that point, right?
At that point, I decided that I was going to get certified. So I did my certification in 2011, and I was still doing hair at the time, but then I decided that I need to do this full time because it was taking over all my thoughts. So since then, I've created an on-person coaching, and that's why I'm here today. So
That's awesome. That's so cool. And, you know, I know probably most of us can relate to the fact that when we go and get our hair done or get your nails done or have a facial, you know, you're sitting there and you're talking to the woman that is doing all that for you, right? You can't just sit there in silence. So yeah, we have definitely divulged a lot of personal information with, you know, that's a woman that becomes like a close friend, even though it's somebody that at first starts out really as a stranger.
Right. That is very true. And I was already so close to these women, so it was very easy for me to start off that way. And they became my first clients were definitely people that were in the chair with me doing their hair prior to them being in the chair across from me talking.
Yeah. What do you find are the biggest challenges right now that women are facing when it comes to dating and finding love relationships?
I definitely find that it's the authenticity and it's that one-on-one connection, because so often we are behind our screens. There's a lot of that. And I feel like people are longing for that lasting attraction, that lasting feeling of, you know, they still want that newness. They still want that closeness, but we don't have as much of that one-on-one intimate attraction that lasts.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, that's actually one of the things I was really curious about with dating apps and social media. And I feel that, you know, people are kind of starting long-term relationships later in life. I know you and I talked the other day, and both of us have been in long marriages, or we've been married, both of us, for a long time. So I don't know how old you are, but I got married when I was, how old was I? I was 23. I was just about to turn 24. And I was one of my first friends to get married. And, you know, this was 16 years ago. And I feel like although my friends started to get married, you know, just after me, then, you know, they were older. And I feel like I definitely started my journey way earlier than most people. So I feel like there's so much, you know, it's just a big cultural change in terms of how are people finding that connection and, you know, settling into those, you know, long-term committed relationships.
That's very true. And I am very much the same. I did get married when I was 24. So we were about the same
Okay.
age.
Yeah.
And yeah. And so I feel like the world's changed a lot since then. You know, some of the fundamentals are still the same, what the things that we need in order to keep a lasting positive relationship, but the approaches are definitely different because our world is different. So, and it keeps evolving. So
Do you think that the dating scene has evolved in a good way as you see it in your business?
in some ways it has, because I did actually meet my husband online.
Okay.
So the cool part I think about that is a lot of times it takes quite a while to get to know people, and you know, you're not going to go on your first date and tell them your life story, you know.
Right.
But you when you have you know, a dating app or a dating website, you can easily put that out there without having those awkward moments, because you can pretty much list everything that is important about you and everything that you really truly value in a relationship without having to have those first awkward moments where you're like, oh, this is what I'm looking for. This is what I want. These are all my goals. And so it's kind of out there. So I feel like the initial you know, compatibility is going to be easier finding somebody now, but as far as keeping everything up and keeping that newness fresh and keeping that love relationship going, I feel like that part has been more difficult.
Talk to me a little bit about that. Like when you know, how are you helping women keep that newness alive, right? Because there's this concept of NRE, if anyone doesn't know what that stands for, new relationship energy, right? And anytime you have something new in your life, it's exciting, it's shiny, right? We all have like shiny object syndrome, and we're so excited when there's something new. And especially in that first part of a relationship, right? It seems like, you know, this is our first time going on a trip, or this is our first time going to a concert, or this is our first party, or whatever. So all those first, they get really exciting, but after time that wears off, things start to lose their luster, and that's when really the work has to happen, right? And that really puts the relationship to the test. So how do you know, help women kind of transition from that new honeymoon stage, even if, you know, it's a dating honeymoon, right, into long-lasting love?
Well, you definitely have to keep on recreating it. And I think a lot of people don't realize that, myself included. You know, you're so excited and happy when you begin a new relationship and you're just in love and everything's good, but it's not going to stay that way unless you're both putting in effort. I don't like to call it work because it's truly effort and you both have to want it. But when you label work, when you label it as work, it becomes, you know, tedious, and it becomes something you have to do versus something that you want to do and that you're excited about. So I feel like it's like with maintaining anything, you know, you have to pay close attention. You have to be, you know, observant of their feelings, and the communication is huge. And not just the verbal communication, all your communications. And like we talked the other day, we talked a little bit about Gary Chapman and the 5 love languages.
Yes.
And so you have to be very intuitive and know people's love language to be able to truly relate to them. And there's so many different ways, once you know what your partner's love language is, that you can keep things alive, but you have to know it first. Whether it be, for me personally, I love words of affirmation. Obviously, if you're a coach, you probably love words, and they're inspiring, they're affirming, you want words. And then my secondary would probably be, well, not probably, it is time spent together, quality time.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like once you know those things, you can really work at those and put it, and I think that's the biggest thing, is knowing those first.
So what is your husband's, what are his love languages?
For him, he is actually completely opposite. He is, he loves buying gifts, which is awesome. And I have a couple of friends that are like, yay. And I'm just like, well, that's great. But for me, it's completely opposite. So for him, he likes to buy gifts, and he likes to do acts of service, and he likes me, you know, to show him love by doing acts of service. So that's more out of my comfort zone. So, one thing that I do for him each day that he gets up in the morning for work, because he works really early. So for me, one of those acts of service that I do to keep things alive is I get up with him at 4:30 in the morning, and I make his breakfast, and I make his coffee and his lunch for the day. And that's our little time before our kids wake up, and I get to share that little peaceful time with him.
Oh,
so
awesome.
You know, I'm like, you know, it's not like I do it always with a happy heart. You know, I tell myself, I'm like, okay, I gotta do this. But it means the world to him. And that's one way that I do keep things up with him. It's something so simple, but at the same time, it's very, it shows him that, hey, I did this for the last 14 years. I still care just as much. So one of my big things that I tell every woman that's entering a relationship is, don't start habits that you cannot maintain, because
that's a good one.
And it's hard, you know, and it does take that effort, but it shows them that, hey, I cared this much then, and I still care that much.
Right.
So that's definitely my biggest thing.
That's huge. I mean, I was, you know, it's funny. First of all, just to backtrack for anybody that doesn't know about the love languages. Okay, sister, you've been living under a rock if you haven't heard of the love languages, but let's just recap so that you know what we're talking about. So Gary Chapman wrote a book called The 5 Love Languages, and the 5 love languages are quality time, acts of service, words of affirmation, physical touch, and receiving gifts. Receiving and giving, I think that's in the same, right?
It is.
It's in the same category. And so, you know, to your point, Christina, it's really important to know what the love language is for yourself and also for your partner. And if anyone's interested, there's a quiz online. I think you just Google the 5 love languages quiz, and you guys answer some questions, and it takes 5 minutes, and you know, you get your love language. And I think also, you know, your love language can change. I know for me, when I took the quiz the first time, I think my highest one was physical touch and quality time. And I would say that now, you know, I'm more probably in, I mean, I'm still pretty strong in physical touch, but I think physical touch and probably words of affirmation. I think for me, that is really also important. But knowing, you know, what your partner what their love language is super important, because like you said, even though for you it's out of your comfort zone to get up early in the morning and help him get ready for his day, etc., but that's your quiet time, and it's so nice and you value that. So that's obviously, you know, serving your needs as well, even though it's out of your comfort zone, and it's showing that you're putting that effort into your relationship. So I think that's an awesome example.
Right. Yeah, I definitely, you know, and it's different for each relationship, obviously, you know.
Right.
Some other examples would just be like, okay, so in the beginning, maybe you call that person on your break, on your lunch, you know, something like that, and just said, you know, how's your day? Something as simple as that can make the difference, and say, I'm still thinking about you. I still do this for you. So, or going on those dates, or buying, you know, those nice something for him that he's showing me, you know. And so now that I know with the love languages, I'm like, okay, he's trying to show me love right now. Every time he buys a nice gift,
Right.
and he's still showing me that he cares just as much.
Yeah. No, I think
so I also,
yeah, keep going.
So, yeah, I also wanted to get into just a couple things that I think are the main factors in general that allow a relationship to thrive and flourish. Obviously, there's a lot of factors when it comes to maintaining a big one that you hear are compatibility, you hear connection, you hear attraction, and those are all things that are important, and those I feel like are things that maybe bring you into the relationship initially, but in my opinion, those are not the things that are the glue to your relationship. That's not what's going to hold, you know, your relationship together. I feel like the biggest factor is really boundaries. I feel like those are definitely things that if you have those in place, your relationship is going to thrive, because you're not setting yourself up for failure. Because when you have unrealistic expectations, that is definitely setting yourself up for failure. So in contrast, you're going to have these healthy expectations, and you also need the communication to go along with those, so that you're expressing to them, hey, this is kind of what I see for our future. This is what I hope for. These are things that are important to me, that I value. So when it comes to those expectations, I first tell my clients that they need to ask, are they healthy expectations? So that's like the first and foremost. So it's not something that's going to put the other person out. Like they're not giving and not getting anything in return. They're not overextending themselves. They're not uncomfortable with it. So first I have them ask, is this a realistic expectation? Is it healthy? And is it selfish, or is it like for both of us? So that's another huge one. A lot of times we're like, okay, well, I expect this. Well, who is it for? Is it helping both of you, or is it just for you? And lastly, when it comes to expectations, is it something that's critical for your relationship to be healthy and thrive? Sometimes they're just, like I said, selfish, and they're not really about the beauty of your relationship. And so those are three things that I feel like when it comes to healthy expectations, those are three questions that everyone should ask.
That's great. Can you give an example of a healthy expectation versus an unhealthy expectation?
Absolutely. So an unhealthy one would maybe be something like, I want you to be at this career goal by this time. You know, that's something that you might place on somebody else. As far as, I've sat down with many women that are like, okay, well, you know, my fiance or my boyfriend's not doing this, and he needs to be doing this, and he needs to be doing that. And then I ask them, is this a goal for both of you that you've discussed that you both hope for to better your future? Or is this something you want him to do so that he makes more money or is more attracted to you in a certain way, you know?
Right.
So that would be an unhealthy expectation. Now that same expectation could be a healthy one if it was in the right context. Like, I'm thinking that, or I expect for my fiance, husband, boyfriend, you know, to better himself at this job because we've discussed that we want to provide for our family or our children in this way. We'd like to save and invest in this way, and it's for us. So it's really about the heart. It's more so where your heart's at with the expectation.
That's huge. I mean, I think you're right. I think expectations are huge. And I think a lot of times we come from a place of fear. And so we don't want to put ourselves out there and state what our expectations are. And then we get into this martyr and victim mode where we're like, oh yeah, we'll do that. But in our minds, we're thinking, I don't want to freaking do that. You know, and now I'm going to hold that person, you know, accountable, and I'm going to be resentful because I don't want to do this thing, but I never said it in the first place. So I don't know if you run into that a lot, but I definitely do in talking to some of my, you know, friends, or, you know, just in my own relationships. I've seen it. I've seen it with, you know, I feel like I'm a really good communicator, so I don't run into that too often personally. However, in many relationships that I observe, I find that that's the thing. There's like this weird passive aggressive situation that happens. So I'm curious, do you encounter that when you're talking to your clients and they're like, well, I just don't understand it. And you think, well, girl, if you were to like actually say what you wanted and express your needs, then you probably wouldn't run into this in the first place.
That is very true. And as I said, with the expectations also comes boundaries. So
Yes.
I feel like if you have good boundaries in your relationship, that your expectations will also then be aligned. So I feel like when it comes to boundaries, all your boundaries need to make you feel comfortable. They need to, not comfortable to the point where you're complacent, but comfortable. You need to be comfortable with the things that you allow. So your boundaries teach other people how to treat you. So
That's
basically
good.
your level of respect for yourself. So I feel like that's really huge, because when we're not, you know, applying our boundaries, we can easily get walked all over.
Right.
So, and but when we have boundaries in place and we're like, this is what or how I expect you to treat me, and this is what I'm comfortable with, this is what's okay with me, then you're also not going to be out of alignment with your expectations.
So one of the challenges that I see with a lot of the women that I talk to is they might have boundaries, but they're really uncomfortable expressing them. So how do you help women recognize what their own boundaries are? Would you have any tips or, you know, pieces of advice that you know, things that you ask women to put into place so that they can really understand what their boundaries are and really be listening to their own self and their own intuitive guidance?
Yes, and I definitely ask them, you know, when any like a specific situation happens, I'm like, does that make you feel uncomfortable? Are you resentful when your significant other does this? You know, and sometimes they're like, well, yeah. Do you say something? Well, no. So it is also about being vocal as well. It's not just about recognizing it. But one thing that I teach women before they are in that relationship, I said from day one, make sure that you're not breaking plans. You're not saying, okay, well, this person called, so I'm, you know, even if you just have your own plan, you may not have a plan with one of your friends.
Right.
If you have something that you have going on, you stick to that. And if you have a schedule like, hey, this is what I do, be okay with continuing on with that. You know, don't totally change your life, because once you totally changed your life to accommodate someone else and their schedule, you're kind of saying it's all about you, you know,
Right.
and you need to still make it be about yourself as well and the union together. So so one thing that I've always said about boundaries is it tells the other person that I'm in this with you, not for you. And so if you ask yourself that question, and you can answer that honestly, that's going to tell you right there if your boundaries are in alignment. Is this for just them, or is it for us? And so basically just still be you when you're with the other person. And when you make that pattern or keep that pattern of putting your priorities still first, and you also, you know, incorporate them into your life, but they don't become your life. So,
Right.
you know, I ask women, like, how much has your life changed since you've been with this new person, especially when it's a new dating relationship. If they say it's flipped upside down, if it's 100, they did 180, I usually caution, you know, I say proceed with caution, because that tells me that they've literally put that person on a huge pedestal. And that's where the red flags start happening, you know. And I've been there too. I've done the same thing in any relationship where I completely changed the direction of my life. Those were always negative relationships in the end, because I put all my eggs in one basket and I was like, this is amazing. I want to spend every second with this person. It's wonderful. And it became all about them.
Right.
So.
Right. Absolutely. Tell me about your teaching around self-love, because I know that's important to you, especially coming at relationships from a wholehearted perspective. And I feel strongly in self-love, and that, you know, you really can't love anybody else until you properly love yourself. So I'd love to know more about, you know, what is your take on self-love, and how do you help women find more of it?
First of all, I definitely feel like also that goes hand in hand with boundaries as well, because it is about loving yourself. One of the big things is, as far as finding value, a lot of people, women especially, I feel like, put their value in the same category as their worth. And I think sometimes when it comes to worth, it is things that you feel like you've achieved, or things that you've done well at, or you've earned. Your value is innate and it's inborn, and you know, you are valuable no matter what you accomplish. And I think that is hard for some women to swallow and recognize. But the way that I teach them how to identify with self-love is basically, when you have somebody in your life that has a baby, or you have your own child, I ask them, how valuable is that child? And they're like, well, extremely valuable, like priceless, perfect, precious. I said, and so are you. I said, that does not go away. That does not change. Yeah. So, and that kind of opens their eyes, like, wow, I am valuable no matter what. I said, because that child could do a number of things that, you know, a number of things that were successful in his or her life, or they could do nothing at all, and they'd still be just as valuable, you know. So I try to tell them to do things in their life, make habits that make them recognize their value. So whatever that is to them. And it is different for each person, but I do tell them to do positive affirmations, and I ask them what they do feel like they're good at, and different things that make them aware of their value. And I have them write it down, and I actually have them record it on audio as well, and then listen to their own voice, because basically you're basically coaching yourself, and we're very receptive to our own voices and what we truly think. So if we hear ourselves saying these things, we are going to believe them. So
absolutely. I agree with you 100%. I think that, you know, writing affirmations and speaking affirmations, I think it's so powerful for, you know, our words, and even just saying things like, I am worthy, I am enough.
Yeah.
You know, those statements are super powerful. And I think a lot of times we will dismiss that in the name of, oh, that's not for me. That's too woo-woo. That's too like up here. I don't know what's happening. I think that we need to like get rid of our ego around that. Like, why do we put up the barriers and the boundaries against accepting ourselves and loving ourselves? I mean, really, that is like the key to all of it. So
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. After all, you're showing people how to love you, how to treat you, how to respect you. And so if you're telling yourself every day, like, I am valuable, I am beautiful, I am strong, you are going to not only believe those things, but you're also going to reflect those things. Like, that's what you're going to be expecting. And so people that you're dating, people that you're in a love relationship with, they're going to feel that exuding out of you. Like, they're going to feel that, and that is how they will treat you.
Absolutely. So what is your personal favorite self-love act that you do each day for you?
For me, it is definitely writing down my affirmations. That is my favorite thing to do. And yeah, I would say that's definitely my favorite, but also, I don't know if you've ever done this practice before. I have a few of my clients do this as well, where I have them write a love letter to themselves.
I've heard of this. I haven't done it, but yeah, I've heard about that.
It's very powerful, but I have them do it as if they were writing it, but they're writing it to themselves. So what would you want to hear from that person? What would you want to hear from the person you love about you?
Right.
And I'll say those things to yourself. So it's really powerful. And then reading that and just, basically affirming what you're telling yourself, you know, and that's your letter to yourself, saying that you're all those things that you want eventually to hear from someone else as well. So,
oh, that's beautiful.
What about you? Do you have a favorite?
My favorite, well, one that I've done recently, I'm a big fan of the affirmations. I don't know if we talked about this, but did you know I have an affirmation card deck?
No, I did not. That's awesome.
Well, I'll have to make sure that you get a copy of one. But my favorite one is this is a new practice that I've been working on in addition to writing down and doing affirmation cards. But I've been doing mirror affirmations. And I write it on my mirror right now. It says, I'm trying to think of the exact words. I think it says, what makes you feel beautiful today? And I have that on like my big, my tall mirror in my bedroom. And then the practice that I have been, I need to make it more of a habit because I haven't been super consistent, but I've been really working on this over the last probably month or so, is sitting in front of the mirror totally naked by myself and spending 30 seconds to a minute and just telling myself that I love myself, that I'm strong, that I'm beautiful, and just reaffirming all the things, but really like looking in the mirror, saying it either like in my head or out loud, and like giving myself kind of a squeeze or a hug to have also that tactical, side of it as well. So it's kind of all the things. It's the visual, it's the audio, and it's the touching. So that's been pretty powerful.
Yeah, that sounds very powerful. I definitely need to do that as well. I love it.
Yeah, try it out. It's a bit uncomfortable. I'm not gonna lie. It's like the first time you do it, you're like, okay, this is weird. What am I doing? But but
for each time, it probably is more comfortable and also more rewarding too.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's funny. I got out of the habit when I was on vacation a couple weeks ago with family. Obviously the kids are all around, there was no mirror, all the things. And actually my husband and I were talking about this morning. He's like, hey, are you still doing that? And I'm like, oh my gosh, I haven't done it since we got back from vacation and I need to. So I figured that with my new routine, I have to figure out a good cue for my habit, a trigger, so that I do it on a more consistent basis. Because when I do it, I definitely notice an uptick in my overall, self-love, self-value, self-worth, all of that.
Right. That is awesome.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. It's super cool.
And I just one more thing I wanted to add
please.
as well, like as far as the self-love and expectations, building on all of that and the boundaries. The next thing that I truly believe is huge in any type of relationship. So obviously, like, I coach mostly love relationships, but with any relationship is the daily reconciliation, like apologizing, forgiveness, all of those. And what made me think of it is when you're self-love and things like that, it's also to yourself, you know, and a lot of times we don't forgive ourselves for things, and we're too hard on ourselves, and we're beating ourselves up, even if we are doing positive affirmations, and even if we love ourselves, sometimes we don't forgive ourselves for mistakes that we make. So it is daily reconciliation with not only your significant other, not only your partner, but also yourself. So that's something that is definitely a huge thing in keeping a relationship fresh, is starting over daily with that. And it could be the littlest thing. And if you hold on to it, it's going to, either you're going to resent yourself, or you're going to resent your partner. So
absolutely. Oh, that's so good. I think that that's huge. You know, having that ability. Also, let's go back to vulnerability, right? If you can be vulnerable enough to reconcile, and it doesn't have to be these catastrophic events, right? Like, yeah, sometimes we're going to really fuck up, and, you know, things happen, and those things we really have to repent for and figure out how to put together the pieces. But in general, you know, we all make mistakes. We're not perfect. Little things happen every single day, but it doesn't ever hurt to have that reconciliation, that forgiveness piece, because then you can have the closure and you can move on. And that's so important. It also just helps you heal. So, you know, I think there's so much value to that.
Yeah, to make a habit of it, to think each day, like what do I need to apologize, you know, for, and what do I need to forgive? So if you make it a daily habit and you think of it at the end of the day, it just starts the relationship off right, and it leads by example, and it's saying, hey, I care every little detail of this relationship I care about. So I feel like that is another thing that keeps the relationship fresh, because you still care, instead of saying, oh, you know, it's been however long, they know I'm sorry. No, they don't. Not always. You know, they don't know you're sorry. They don't know how you feel. So that communication is huge, because I've been definitely guilty of that, where I'm like, oh, he knows I appreciate it. He knows I appreciate it. No, maybe he doesn't. You know, so saying thank you, you know, being expressive like that, as well as that daily reconciliation is really huge.
Oh, I think so too. And I think that I think we make too many assumptions that the other person knows what we're feeling. And really, like, most of the time they don't know what you're feeling. So then you end up in this weird feedback loop of, you know, miscommunication. But if you would just take a moment to reflect and have the courage to say what you're feeling, everybody can move on and life is good, and you're going to have such better relationships overall. So, and whether it's your love relationship, your relationship with your children, with your parents, with your friends, whatever, all of it. It's really no different.
That's so true.
Yeah.
Yes. That's so true. Even with kids.
Right.
You know, and I feel like it's even more important to create that habit with them, because you know, but I have 3 girls. I'm teaching them to be wonderful wives and mothers, some forgiveness, reconciliation each day, and like, hey, did I upset you when I said that? Or, you know, how did that make you feel? You know, so they're automatically going to be talking about their feelings, because I'm kind of like pulling it out of them, or reminding them, hey, I don't always know how you feel. Tell me how you feel. So and yeah.
No, that's so powerful. That's so powerful. It's awesome.
Yeah. And one other thing that in our relationship has been something that I actually asked my husband. I was coaching, I think this was about 2 months ago, and I asked my husband for some advice, and I asked, what in our relationship do you feel like has kept it new, kept it happy, positive? And he said, you know, when we do argue, he said, it's not about right or wrong. It's about how the other person feels. And that's like, I'm glad, you know, I was really glad that he felt that way as well, because that's been something really dear to my heart, because I used to be very sensitive. I'm not as sensitive as I was like in my, you know, teenage years, my college years. But at the same time, you know, I love that he recognized that and that he believes that as well, because we really don't focus on the right or wrong. And sometimes one of us is very wrong. Like, yeah, you totally messed up. Like, that was wrong. But we more focus on how we, because of their actions, and then how do we heal this? How do we make it better and back to happy? So, yeah, because I feel like when you focus on who was right and who was wrong, it's just going to be a debate. It's going to go back and forth. There's no resolution. That's just like pointing the finger.
Right.
And it doesn't get anything accomplished. It heals. So, and in that, or with that, I should say, like, I process that I feel like should really be at the heart of every apology, or like a truth I recognize that I messed up. Then it should also be like, I understand how my actions affected you and made you feel. And number 3 is, I'm sorry for those actions, like I'm remorseful. 4 is, I will do my best not to repeat behavior, because so many times it's like, you know, okay, you said you're sorry and it's happening again, you know, so definitely stopping the behavior. 5 is, let me help repair the damage that I've done. So whatever it made you feel like, let me fix that. Let me at least try. Number 6 would be like actually asking for the forgiveness, like, I'm sorry, and will you forgive me? And then 7 is, let's move forward together, and together being the key word.
That's awesome.
Because it's a reminder not to carry it with us, you know, to remember the lesson, but not carry, you know, those negative feelings with us.
Right. And not to dwell on it, right, and make it a big deal.
Right. So true.
No, that's awesome. We'll have to include that in the show notes, maybe the list of the 7, because I think that's really powerful. That's awesome.
Thank you. Sure.
Yeah, no, that's great. Well, this has been so awesome, Christina. I'm so glad that you were here today to shed so much light on all things about love, relationships, how to get along, you know, better with your partner, how to create lasting relationships, because at the end of the day, like, that's what we want, right? Like, we are humans. We thrive on being social. We thrive on love and being in relationship with other people. And if you know, don't love yourself and you can't take care of your own needs, how are you going to show up for any other person in your life? So I feel, you know, really strongly about everything that you talked about, from, you know, communication to expectation setting to boundaries to reconciliation, all of it. It's really important that we are, you know, we recognize that all of these components are the effort, as you said, that go into building a lasting relationship, so that we can have that, you know, that comfort that most of us probably seek and desire in our lives.
True. And a lot of people do ask about balance, like, how do I balance my relationship? And I basically tell them, like, if you are communicating well, if you have those healthy boundaries and healthy expectations, and you know how to apologize and daily reconcile, you're going to have balance. So I feel like balance is then a product of a healthy relationship versus a factor in it. So I also just wanted to add that in too, because a lot of people are like, well, you didn't bring up balance, you know. A lot of people are like, you know, that's what I is here. And I'm like, yeah, balance will come. It's a product of a harmonious relationship. When everything's flowing right and all these steps are being taken, then you get balance. That's your reward.
Right. Absolutely. Oh, that's so good. That's so good, Christina. I love it. Well, I want to wrap up and let you have an opportunity to tell everybody where they can find you, how they can reach out to you if they want to work with you. So share all the things. How can we be in touch with you, Christina? So
my website is thecoachchristina.com, and then you can also find me on Facebook at Coach Christina for my page, and then also Instagram at the Coach Christina as well.
Awesome.
So those are my main avenues. So I usually on Instagram. That's my go-to. Yeah.
Perfect. Well, I'll make sure to include all the information so people can reach out to you. I know you said that if they were interested in doing a complimentary call with you to kind of dive in a little bit deeper on their own concerns, issues, whatever you want to call it, so that if they want to kind of really get proper relationship coaching with you, they might be able to do so.
Yes, if you are interested in a vision call, you can just reach me by just dialing 773 my coach. So, and I'm happy to do that, and it can be scheduled anytime Thursday and anytime Friday. Those are usually when I take my vision calls. So I would love to hear from any of you or all of you.
Awesome. Well, that's so great. All right, 773 Coach. I'll put that in the show notes as well. So much great information, and I am wishing everybody a loving, love-filled day, because that is what it's all about. So thank you so much, Christina, for being here with us. Thank you for watching. Again, don't forget to make sure you're subscribing to the YouTube channel to get all the updates on Sassy AF TV. Don't forget to follow on social at Sassy Healthy Fit. Follow the Coach Christina on Instagram, Facebook, her website, all the places. And let's just make sure that we are remembering we are enough, we love ourselves, and we need to keep communicating, setting boundaries and proper expectations, and never be afraid to say, I'm sorry, or I appreciate you. All right, have a great day, everyone. Thanks for watching, and we will talk to you on the next episode of Sassy AF TV.